webinar will cover how to work with bins, linking versus importing, creating a new sequence, transitions and motion effects. That's something that you, as an AVID editor or any editor, other platforms are familiar with. Segment effects, title creation is different in this one because there is no more title tool. It is now title tool plus. The point that I need to make here is that if I am using the version that you are looking at, please observe what my computer is using as its operating system. It is still on Mojave. That means that it's 10.14. Mojave was the last version where 32-bit data was used, and when you switched over to Catalina, 64 was introduced. Therefore, a whole bunch of things that AVID used in the past that were 32-bit were wiped out or not used anymore, QuickTime being one of them. So when you export and you use the Catalina, you may not have the ability to export in QuickTime because that is written off. Clearly, that's something that you need to be aware of, but put that aside. This is being recorded, so you can come back to it. I'm not going to repeat anything more than I need to. So here's the first thing I will do. Whatever I have done, I'm going to quit out of it. Command Q, Control Q, quits out of your running application. Also in the AVID dropdown, there should be an option where you can do that. And in this case, I'm using the Command Q, Control Q on a Windows if you're a Windows user. I will activate my Media Composer. And the Media Composer I have will be showing up on the screen, and the screen is telling me that it is there's two words I'm going to use, flavor and version. The flavor is going to be Media Composer Ultimate, and the version is 2020.8, suggesting that that is 2020 August. There are some newer versions. The newest, I believe, is 2021-2. All right. As you have seen it, if you are a novice to AVID Media Composer, keep in mind that you always open up the Media Composer last. You connect all the hardware. We call it ecosystem, control surfaces, and then you open up Media Composer last because it sends out some message saying who is connected. So now this is the opening window. If you have not seen it and you are working on older version, this new window is really cool because it gives you a project and a new project option right away on the top. From the drop down, I do have a scenario where I can define what is my user interface. User interface is basically what you save, keyboard shortcuts, how the interface looks like, how export settings, import settings, and things of that sort look like. So in this scenario, you can create a brand new user profile. When you create a brand new user profile, you will create a default. So when somebody says default keyboard shortcut, that is what they mean by that. I have some presets. So for example, NH Rocks was maybe one of my user settings. So I'm going to use that. And when it opens up, then I have my keyboard set up. It's almost like a kitchen. All the utensils are a certain place and all the things that I need to use, salt, pepper, and everything else arranged properly. The selection of the projects is now different. You can actually see the name of the project. You can also see the project type. I'm hovering around the mouse. It tells you the frame rate. It tells you the color space, YCBR, and it tells you the raster dimension. So now what we have is a selection of the project. So if you click on a project and you open on the bottom right-hand corner, it opens up, or you can just double click on it, left double click on it. When you create a new project, the drop down tells you NTSC is standard definition, PAL is standard definition in countries that are using different electrical than the United States, which is the 60 cycle. So that's one. Then you go into the high definition 720, and it gives you a whole bunch of flavors. The high definition, that is a 1280 720. So when I say high definition, that's the format. The raster size is 1280 by 720, and the aspect ratio is 16:9. So let's look at the one that is most commonly used in the United States, 2997 drop frame. You can see it says 1280 720. 1280 720, 1280 pixels across, 720 down, and it gives you the frame rate. Now you can go up to 16K. 4K is becoming a standard now. 8K is becoming very fast, a option that people kind of shoot with. There is a 6K camera, came out for less than $2,000 by Blackmagic people. So camera prices are coming down and the pixel numbers are increasing. Anyway, so this is where you select your project format and type, and somebody will send you email if you work for NBC, CBS, major networks, or if you're doing something for Vimeo or YouTube, you can decide what you're going to go with. Now, when that is done, then you start the project. In my scenario, I do have a project already. So I'm going to use a existing project for demonstration purposes. Rock Climber, left double click on it or click on it and it opens it up. So when the project opens up, you notice that there are sections that you're familiar with. If you are a non-linear editor from some other platform, you will notice the same things. And if you're an AVID user, you're going to say, oh, I recognize things. You recognize the composer window, which is in the center. Source monitor, record monitor. That's the composer window. You recognize that you have a timeline on the bottom. It actually calls itself a timeline and it registers a timeline. The only problem you have with this, and this is going to be something unusual, everything is magnetic now. You see, everything moves together. So the biggest challenge for you guys is going to be getting used to it and how to separate elements. So let me show you something upper left-hand corner. I'm drawing your attention to upper left-hand corner with my mouse. And you will notice that the bin icon changed from before 2019-6 to something different. It looks like a cabinet now, a drawer. And if it's open, you look like it's open. So if you want to look at it, you see it, March 8 webinar, close it. Close it. You can also use the tools that you used in the past. If you right-click on an open bin, you can always say close the selected bin. So these are all cool tools that you have worked with. Now, the interface right now is really introducing something graphical that makes sense to me. Look at the upper right-hand corner. There is a edit, there is a color, there is a effects, there is an audio, there is a custom made that I did, and all these new tools that you kind of are familiar with other platforms. In this case, they brought it from the DaVinci Resolve, are really helping you move faster. So you don't need to always go into the Windows drop-down, workspaces, select the workspaces, and so on. But point is that the default is always starting up with the edit. Now, when you open up with edit, you will notice again, the composer window is in the upper right-hand corner. And now the source is colored green. The record is colored blue. Nice, cool. Okay, so that's fine. Let me just quickly run through what is to be covered, see if I can make sure that I cover everything. So I go into one of the bins that I created for your presentation, for your March 8 webinar, open it up, and I have a Rock Climber promo pre-cut sequence. And on that pre-cut sequence, I have some title, working with bins. So I'm gonna work with the bins now. Let's admit Steve into the room. Then we're going to talk about linking, importing, and then we're going to talk about creating sequence. So let's start with that. So the first thing is I have a pre-cut story that was done by someone, and we did download it from Edit Stock, because Edit Stock is the material. If you sign up for any AVID classes, given to you as material to work with. So AVID uses their services. So if you have a book and if you are taking class with AVID or any other organized and approved company, you will use the stock footage from Edit Stock. And this is a Rock Climber. Anyways, let me play out the sequence to you and see if it is coming through. The volume levels, I need to make sure that it is. Now I need to have someone tell me that you can hear the sound. I see the sound is in the upper left hand, so the monitor is LED, but I want to make sure that you hear it. Increase it a little bit.
B Headwood, yes. Found me on Instagram.
Got it, okay, so everybody got
really
the sound.
My stuff.
Gotcha.
So it's really cool to be supported as an athlete.
So now you understand the concept of the layering, and the layering was earlier, and it is still a monitor. You see that video track one, so you only see the video in that timeline. And if you turn on the second layer, now the filter that is the title is on top of it. So that's how you can see that. So now that's very easy, very nice, very cool. Let's find out how the linking process works. So there's the next step. So the first thing was explaining it to, yeah, okay, bins. Wait a minute, what about bins? Bins looks like that if I open up the color correction and the rock and all this stuff, it's a whole bunch of bins piling on top of each other, looking for my attention. And if you look at from the upper left-hand corner, there is a tab that shows me which bin is that I'm looking at. But my problem is that I don't want to see one bin at a time. Can I see more than one bin? Yes. Two different ways of doing that. One way of doing that is separate it from where it was connected to. So it becomes a floating bin. And that's where, if you have real estate, you guys are going to be lucky, because real estate, obviously, you can move things around. So if you have two monitors, move it to a second monitor, or drag down. So you drag it down and you disconnect it. You see how it disconnects it. But it becomes floating and it might be in your way. So there's two different ways of dealing with it. One is minimizing it. So it goes into hiding. And then if you open it up, you can always double click on it and brings up. There we go, comes up and comes up. There we go, comes up. The next question is, how can I put them together that they are kind of in a group? And the wording group I'm using for the specific reason. Please watch it. I'm going to close all these guys. I can lasso all of them, right click, drop down. It says close selected bins. By the way, how do you create a brand new bin? Like in the past, you could right click in the gray area and the new bin, which is Command and Control N on the Windows. That's a very simple one. If you are in the bins environment in the hamburger dropdown, you can also have a new bin. And if you just use the keyboard shortcut in the file dropdown, new bin. So these are the fast ways of creating a bin. So let's just create one bin just for fun. I'm going to call it the fun bin. So now you have nothing in that bin, but if you go into the sequences now takes over. So it actually overlaps it. How do you separate them? We just showed you that you can drag it out and now you have it separately, but that is not going to be okay for you in terms of real estate management. So watch me. I'm going to right click, close all of these guys, and show you a cool thing that is going to be really, really, I'm not sure if it's revolutionary, but for AVID, definitely it is. So I'll open up the Rock Climber clips, which is a whole bunch of shots. And you know that you can look at them in text view, in frame view, and in script view. Okay, so that's something that was already there. But if I open up the sequences, now the sequences are covering it. Here's a very interesting tool. Notice when I grab that bin and I want to move it in up, left, right, or bottom, a icon shows up. It shows up right away the first time. You see that it splits into the white. If I drag it out, it's outside. That's easy. That's the easy one. That's not the hard one. But what happens when I drag it and I put it to the left side? I split the window in half. Cool. Can I split the window in horizontal as opposed to vertical? Yeah, sure. So let's go open up March webinar, grab that and put it onto the bottom. There we go. So now I have it split into 3. So now real estate is managed differently. This is really cool. And a lot of people like it. If you are an AVID user and you're using the 2019 6 and newer, that's one way of seeing a whole bunch of stuff. These are all independent. They can all look differently. So I can look at a picture view in one of them. You can text view another one, and I can look at script view in the third one. So different ways of looking at things. You also remember that if you are looking at the picture, let me tear it off. If you're looking at the picture, which is, we call it frame view, you can right click in the gray area and tell the computer to show all the clips. You also know that these are not connected, so you can actually organize things. And this is how you and I will put together a sequence by dragging shots all together. But when you mess it up, how do you clean it out? Click in the gray area, right click, and fill the window. I should fill the window. Now, let's say that your eyes are like mine. I'm wearing glasses. So everything that is small to me is kind of need to squint, especially if it's a 13-inch or a 15-inch monitor. So if you want to have these pictures bigger, the very easy and fast way of manipulating that is click inside the box, Command L, Control L increases them. The coolest thing ever. Command K decreases them. It goes up to a certain point depending on your resolution of the monitor. So that's a cool way of organizing things. The only problem I have with that, and I'm making it as a problem, it is not a problem, is that if I know that I have more clips and the computer is in this scenario showing me this upper right-hand white box, that is known as the hide bin map or show bin map. The bin map shows me that I have more clips, but they are kind of, you see, okay, so there's more clips. So I'm not seeing all the clips in the bin. So if you're not sure if you see everything, definitely one option is Command K, make it smaller so you can fill the viewing area by fill the bin, or activate your friend the show bin map. So if you zoomed in, which I am zooming in, Command L, look at it. So the bin map up says, that's where I am. So I'm moving around that white wireframe, selecting what I'm going to see. That's a cool thing. Other applications use that. So AVID probably sat down, got the license, and they use it. So in the upper corner of the bin that you need to show the bin map, you look for the hamburger. Hamburger is when you're hungry for knowledge. You always like to use that in AVID. So with that, you hide that. And then you say, okay, where's the rest of the stuff? Well, make it smaller, Command K or Control K, right click and fill the window. Okay. I'm going to move along with this because this is just some very simple way of explaining things, how things work. I generally see people, and I myself do the same thing. I generally like to see a bin differently colored. Right click in the bin, somewhere halfway, there is a set background color, and I pick a color, for example, a light yellow, which is called lemon. I can actually see the tab and I can see the bin. So if I have external shots or internal shots, I can always colorize it. So I don't need to always remember, oh, what was the name of the bin? Ah, the colors are differently. So the March webinar, I'm going to color differently. Right click, set background color. I'm not going to pick the defaults. I'm going to pick something custom. And on the Mac, you have these 5 different tools to pick from. Crayons are my favorite because they're consistent. So if I pick the, let's say, nice tangerine, it should be tangerine. That's it. With that being done, let's move on to the system of how material is imported. Here's how the system functions. I'm sure you have lots of questions, but this is a webinar, so this is a fast run through, and you will be able to stop it, go back to it when you're watching it. So here is how the system is designed right now. Right click, open up a new bin, and this new bin is going to be called import. I'm going to import material. The import concept in AVID is much different than anybody else. Import in AVID is very specific. So in the import bin, I right click inside, right click in the import bin. I named it import. And in the source browser or in the import media, I can pick and find material to import. In this case, I right click, input, import media, and then the system directs me to the desktop. Let's call it find the camera original, if you want to call it. And you go and say, hey, where is the material? Well, you know, I'm going to go into, let's say, an area where I think that material is there. There we go, here, media. And imagine that this jacuzzi QuickTime is the camera original. So these are all camera original QuickTime MOVs. Think about it that way. So you can select one of them or multiple ones. And when you import, you have to decide how they come in. 2 options. One option is you define it at the time when you're importing it, which in this case, you can pick the compression, ProRes or DNxHD, any of the available things. You can define where it's going to go, what drive. Usually the MTS drive is bold. If you want to make sure that the raster size stays the same, in the options, you can define that image will be sized or left alone or things of that. So this is, again, as I said, a very fast pace of doing it. But point is, let me repeat that quickly, because that's going to be the fastest one. If you are importing it, you know that your project is a specific raster size. What is the project raster size? So let's try to find out. If you remember when you were working on this drop down in the preferences, the format is identified as 1080 running at 24. Drop frame running at 24 frames. So you have 25 frames or 30 frames or 60, it will compress it down when it imports it. Keep that in mind. So in this case, I know that if I import stuff and I bring the import media and I don't set anything, option changes, it will use the default setting and it will import the media from where I am. Now, because I just showed you something, let me show you this window. This is going to be a window. If you're an AVID user, you're going to go back to it a lot. So in the preferences, you can set up that in the project, when you create media, the media is going to be always at the import setup to be, and this is where you set it up, let's say ProRes 422. And you will define that it will go a specific drive, the Black Crucial. And now you don't have to even deal with this right-clicking and importing. Why not? Because, let me show you, you minimize the window. You find where the, let's call it camera original, camera speak is. And in this case, I know it is here. There we go, go there. I grab a file and simply drag it in the bin. Let's see if I can make that work. Now, this might be a long one, and I don't know how long it is unless I look at it. And it is about how long? 1 minute 44. Let's see if I can have a shorter one. Okay, these are kind of long ones. All right, that's 54. So I drag this file, watch it, drop it in, and now the import process starts. So drag and drop is replacing the right-click, import, and all the rest of the stuff. Clearly, this is taking time, taking space. The import process is something that is taking time and takes space. What about linking? Okay, so I'm going to wait for this to come in because I don't want to not walk away from it, and I don't want to have you get an impression that it is a very fast process, depending on the processor and the file size, obviously. But it is a process that takes time and takes space because it generates now MXF media. So when it comes in, it registers and it says, okay, now I'm imported. There we go. So now I'm done. If I double click on it, I'm playing the footage, and the footage is now playing. So these are guys who are in QuickTime. So that was how you brought it in when it was imported. If you, on the other hand, right click and you want to source browse it, the source browser is the same browser that you're familiar with in other applications. And the browser says, now I'm going to link it. So the terminology AVID media access was translated back a couple of years ago, and it was called the linking. Now the linking is connected to the source browsing. And I know that on that Black Crucial, I have a folder. Inside that folder is the media composer stuff, and inside is the jacuzzi, and inside the jacuzzi is a 7. So now all the jacuzzi shots come up. See that it finds out the universal media link. It doesn't have the QuickTime link anymore. So it now shows me that these are the clips that I can now link. Can I see them picture-wise? Yes. Here, the command L doesn't work, but I can actually pick a shot. So I can pick a whole bunch of them. Let's see, highlight 1, 2, 3. These will not be imported, but linked. And when I click on the link, they link 1, 2, 3, and it goes into a bin. Oh, it got into a bin called create a bin based on the folder. Ah, cool. How about if I have a link bin? Open up a bin, new bin, I'll call it link material, L-I-N-K, link. So inside that link, open up the link, right click on it, one more time, the link one, here's the link, okay? And open up the link, right click, input, source browser. Oh, it's already too many steps. Don't worry, I'll show it to you faster. And I'm not creating, I'm gonna put it into the link bin. Watch it on the bottom left-hand corner, put in the link bin. It links it there. Isn't there a faster one? Yes. So here's a faster one to do that too. These 3 guys are already in, and you see that there's a little chain next to them. That kind of means that it's connected, linked. So how do you link it with a drag and drop? Same principles as you have done in the past. AVID always has this option key. It does change things. If you remember, I dragged it earlier by importing it. If I link it, I hold down option and drag a whole bunch of clips, drop it in. There we go. So that's your fastest way of linking it. So you don't have to go right click and browse and all the rest of the stuff. So I hope I got that out of the way. Let me see where we are now. March webinar, close all of the things. And I'm going to open up a bin where I had clips, and I'm going to change them here. Grabbing a whole bunch of shots. 1, click on them, hold down shift. These all shots are selected. Watch me. Selecting them, click and drop it in the timeline. That's your story. Switch it over to picture. That's the original that was given to us when we're importing. So now, watch this scenario. If you have done this, I'm sorry I'm wasting your time. But if you're a novice to this, this is going to be cool. Command K makes the window smaller. Now, selecting a whole bunch of clips is always a way to move things around. So if I say I'm going to start with one shot, grab it. One shot, another shot, and maybe another shot. So the 4 shots are my storytelling. Do you see that, how I put it together? The hierarchy is left to right, top to bottom. In this case, this is called postcard. While I'm here, Command L increases the picture of that. While I'm selecting all 4 of them, hitting the home button on the keyboard, and the end button rewinds the shot to the first frame to the last frame, home and end. What is the home and end button? Well, if you look at your user preferences, which was Command, comma, open up your K keyboard, the home button is this button that is between the alphabetic and the numeric, home, end. Oh, that's how you find the default buttons. Yes, one more time. To find the default keyboards right now, either in the preferences dropdown, and you pick not the project, not the site. In earlier versions, these were together. Now they are separated. A project, user preference, site preference. So the user preference is K keyboard. The one that has the check off is the active one. Double click on it, opens it up, and it shows you because each of the buttons means something. So in this case, the home and end, and also I'm going to use the G George because that will be helpful to me. How so? It will make sure that if someone had entered mark in or out points, I'm going to clear that by hitting G. So hit home, hit G, clears into out, and I drag together. Now I have a story with 4 pieces. Now you see some colors in the timeline, and the colors in the timeline are only really working well if you are doing the following. Watch this. I'm going to color clips, and I'm going to color clips, for example, from the bottom. You see those clips that I colored already? The left side is the coloring, so you can color it. And if you are not happy with the preset colors, you can always add more. But my point is that these clips are 8, 9, and so on are already colored. If I select all of those colored clips, meaning that they had a color added to them, and drag them in the timeline, they should be all separate colors. So each of those clips shows in duration how much of it is in timeline. The only reason why it works is in the bottom left-hand corner of the timeline, I have a clip color option, and the clip color option is set up to be the source. If I turn it off, all of them will be the same, meaning I can have the audio track a different color. How? There we go. Click on it. Track color. And the track color is going to be changed to, let's say, nice bluish. And the video color is going to be changed like yellow. Let's go banana yellow. There we go. But that is per track. So the fastest way to create a sequence was and is always drag and drop. Grab a number of shots. If you visualize it clearly, it might be a good idea to have them picture. I'm going to select the guy climbs, the guy touches the stone, the guy below him looks at him, and then we have a guy still climbing. 4 shots. There we go. Let's highlight them, hit home end, rewind a couple of times, hit G. And if you want to add their in and out points, clearly you can add them on, but this is the fastest way to put the story together. If you want to have a third way of looking at things, when I say third way, one way of looking at things is look at things in the bin. 1, 2, double click on the source material, shows up in the source, or physically drag it into the source. That's like everybody else. Here's a difference how AVID does it, and they have been doing it all along. Holding down optional, double click on it, it's a floating source monitor. So if you're a producer and somebody says, listen, show me some alternate versions. Well, I have one version of this. Hold down option, double click. I have now 2 of these floating source monitors. When I say floating source monitors, these are floating source monitors. They can become bigger, smaller. I can see it there. But the cool thing is that now they are a third monitor if you want to think about them. Record monitor, source monitor, and you have the floating source monitor. Let's close it up. Okay, chat, somebody was saying something. Hi, Jeff from Arist. Procedure to import audio from another program change. Has the procedure to import audio from another program change? You can just drag and drop. And the import here, if you import audio, here's an interesting thing. Just quickly refresh that understanding of audio. When you import media in the options, when you activate it, audio by definition can be changed the sample rate from 44 to 48, if that's what you're asking. And if you don't know what the project sample rate, you will have to go in the command comma, go into the format, and in the format, in the project audio project, it tells you that I'm running at 48. So whatever you have, 32 or 44, it will up it to 48. If that's the answer you're looking for. Here is what I just need to make sure that I can give you. Here's what I did. In the webinar sequences, I put together a whole bunch of clips, and they are color clips. Here's just 1 minute of your time explaining the concept of the smart tools, because I thought that's a cool one to work with. Smart tools by definition are always turned on unless you turn them off. I'm using Command L to make the track height increase. So if you are in the timeline and you're in the upper area, the red arrow lifts and overwrites everything that you selected. If you're in the lower area, yellow, it actually extracts and splices in. That's cool. So now you understand the difference between the yellow arrow and the red arrow. Same thing if you're at the intersection, you can click hold on, open up, there we go. If you're in the intersection and you're in the upper area, you can trim. This is known as an overwrite trim. It does not change the length of the story, but changes the content. But on the other hand, if you go past the halfway and it changes from red arrow trim to yellow trim, it is a destructive, we call it ripple trim. So these are the cool things that Smart Tool does. I have these shots, and into the shot selection, I would like to add a quick transition. The quick transitions are set up already in the timeline toolbar, and they are called quick transition. In this case, it looks like the beginning was cut off, so I have no handles, but I can add a transition, and the transition is going to be a nice dissolve. If I want to have not one, but multiple ones, O is a blanket. Look at the blanket is put over that entire section. Park in the vicinity of one of them. Go back to your friend quick transitions. Now the tool apply shows up to all transitions. And I'm going to do not a dissolve, but I'm going to do a dip to color. Dip to color by definition is going to be dipping to 7.5 IRE black. Adds, everybody gets it. So if I play it, it has a dip to color. There we go. And it added to everyone. That's the coolest thing. Into out defined what that into out is. So into out, G, clear it out. So that's how you add transition effects. And clearly it's a whole bunch of other transition effects. Use your common sense. A wipe, that's a transition effect. What about the push, conceal, matrix? So use your common sense. If it's a peel, let's peel it off, left to right. Put it in the middle, there we go. And that should be a peel. That's how a peel looks like. That's it. So that's a peel. So use your common sense and navigate through that family. You can also type in while you're in the regular one, big one, and type in a name and say, hey, I'm looking for a specific effect and type on it. Add a blanket to the entire story. The entire story seems to be color. Command Y adds another track, a video. In this scenario, I'm going to add a blanket effect, and it's coming from the image family. It is going to be a color effect. Put it onto the environment, which is in this case second track. Turn it on. I'm going to make it black and white quickly. Park on it. Go into effects mode. Two different ways of doing that. Floating effects mode, so you can float it. One option. The other option is going to the big effects mode. Here's the big effects mode. And I'm going to change the saturation down to nothing. I'm going to increase the contrast, black and white. And if I want to be really fancy, I'm going to push the red a little bit and take away the blue, thus creating the sepia tone. So that is the entire. Why is everybody getting it? Because the filter is on top of everybody. If I just want to have one area, then I park on one of the guys, and this guy is going to be very saturated red or very saturated something, color effect, put it on, activate it, saturate the red out of it, like so, very saturated. And if you don't see it, it's probably because there's not enough red on it. Well, let's saturate something else. Have the color. Okay, push the color. In this case, I'm going to push the color, and I'm going to push the color of the green. There we go. Push the green, make it all green. So that's how you segment work. Title creation, guys, is a effect. Here's how the effect works. Command Y adds another track. Control Y on the Windows machines. In the effect family, go all the way down to the title. Title is an effect now. You put it onto a layer. That's the difference now. And now you can create a title. And you have to create a title by either activating the effect mode or going to title, double click on it. And I don't see it because I'm not monitoring it right. And I'm going to say thank you for watching, guys. And get the title coming up, coming in. And if I double click on it, I'll say, thanks for watching. And if I just want to monitor that track, there we go. Thanks for watching.